Today's video is sponsored by Very Many Cups on Patreon. Tinybones Bauble Burglar versus Najeela, Chishiro and Pantlaza. Not the fastest hand in the world, but we've got the first two plays sorted out and we can buy time with a Toxic Deluge, so yeah, I don't mind this at all really. We have a strong Najeela player here, as Chrome Mox will often suggest. Throws ad nauseum under there, so I'm hoping this isn't CEDH. Throws out Lotho as well. And then Scoops. I'll show you the chat here. I don't know if you're even going to see this game now. I asked if it was CEDH. Looks like our opponent felt guilty because, well, he's gone and quit as soon as he was asked that. And yeah, the Chishiro player said that he just played a game against him, saying that it was really good, so we'll assume it's as close to CEDH as you can get, although I have a feeling that our opponent has jumped onto Magic Online with a list that he pulled from the internet. Nothing wrong with net decking, by the way. I never got the issue with net decking. I don't really care if you do that either way, but don't bring CEDH lists to non-CEDH games, please. I can't believe I need to tell people that. Gnarlid Colony can no doubt get plus counters easily on it at some point to get the trample on that. Okay, we draw into Maegrim. Just crack the Wayfarer's Bauble straight away. I'm wondering if this is just plus counters for Chishiro specifically. There's a few ways you can build this. It might just be auras and equipment, and then the plus counter thing is a bit of a byproduct. I'm thinking at the moment there's no guarantee that we're going to get into the lands that we need, unfortunately, so might have to set up with something like Maegrim, buy ourselves time for the Deluge. Sword of the Animist from this player as well. He's also got down a Gruul Turf, so we know he's got a land for next turn. And then we see another board wipe, so I think we do just set up with Maegrim here. Might even buy another turn and go for Waste Not before the board wipe. We'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, the longer we leave it, the more this is going to be swinging in with the sword and ramping. Cultivate for Pantlaza means that we might see the commander in the next turn or two. If we could wrap up two commanders in our board wipe, that would be ideal. Alright, not equipping the Sword of the Animist, instead decides to get down Chishiro, which I'm not against. It's just one fewer Rampant Growth on the Sword of the Animist. We draw into Chain of Smog, which is a combo with Professor Onyx. Missing lands though, we'll play out the Waste Not. Might be if we do get into a fourth land, we might have to forego the combo on this and play it with our Tinybones in play. And there we see the Pantlaza. Our opponent's playing into our board wipe is nice. And Pantlaza discovered a Roaming Throne, so that's probably about as good a trigger as you could have hoped for with this commander. Although this still only triggers once a turn, I think. Yeah, so even if you get double triggers on Pantlaza, this still won't trigger twice. There'll be other dinosaur triggers you can get though. A Parallel Lives, still not equipping this thing. He might regret missing out on that while he's got the chance. Still gets to enchant his commander though, one with nature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you can search for a basic and put it in tapped. And that gives him 2 Menace Spirit tokens that are about to go down anyway. Don't think I've ever properly looked at the tokens here. Anyway, 4/4 comes in towards us, so I think we should scoop to that. We'll Rampant Growth after all with the one with nature, but we get him to waste his aura here at least. So how much are we putting into the Deluge? He'll get plus counter here, meaning this is a 5/5 and some 4 toughness creatures. Means we put 5 into the Deluge, and now we get into a land. That's good. So assuming this lands, we can next turn maybe go for our commander and try Chain of Smog and see what happens. Can maybe get bounced around all over the place. Ideally we'd draw into a land next turn as well, so that we could throw down the Throne of Eldraine, and that would give us the 4 mana to still do our commander and Chain of Smog. Anyway, successfully wipe the board. That will buy us a nice bit of time. Kogla and Yadaro into play here, and that will be a 7/7 with haste, and there's no prizes for guessing where it swings in. It punishes us for the Wrath, and there is an Urza's Power Plant here, which is noteworthy. So we are down to 24 already when our opponents sit at their starting life totals. Chishiro back into play again, and has another aura to throw on there. This one is... does that bounce? Yeah, you can bounce it back to hand. Gives the creature reach. So gets those 2 Menace tokens into play again straight away, and a plus counter. Alright, there's the Swamp, so we are going to catch up on mana, thankfully. That's exactly what we needed. So we'll throw down Tinybones after obviously naming black. And who's most likely to bounce this back to us as part of some kind of revenge? Been talking to this guy in the chat and he seems level-headed, so he might say no to the Chain of Smog. I'll point it at this guy. We're at least going to see 2 cards discarded here. Might have been worth holding on to that just in case we can get into Onyx, because we might actually be able to afford it now. So we have them discard a Blast Zone and a Bonder's Enclave, meaning that we get some more mana, because it's lands that were discarded. They will lose 4 life, and we will exile those lands. Can we play lands with this? Yeah, you can play lands you don't own, so if we are going to miss out on a land drop, then I'll play some of these. Chain of Smog is going to be copied, and it targets us, as I assumed it would. So we have to discard 2 cards here. I think I'll keep hold of the Blasphemous Edict for as long as I can, so we'll get rid of Haunt and the Fraying Omniscience, is it called? Omnipotence. Maybe could have held on to this for the lifelink, but I have a feeling we're going to want a board wipe. Yes, we will copy the spell. This is the beauty of... I've never played Chain of Smog. I don't think I've ever played the combo, but I've certainly never played it like this either. Yeah, let's go after the dinosaur player. We might be able to get some free dinosaurs here. Still have that 4 mana floating. The Naya player might see what we're doing with Chain of Smog now and say no to it. Argument to be made for trying our luck with Chishiro as well. Alright, so we get more mana with a thriving buff. Won't be able to make use of the Apex Altasaur, unfortunately. But we've made our opponent discard down to 2. So he's kept the best 2 cards in his hand and potentially misses out on lands. We'll get a zombie token to the Apex Altasaur and Waste Not, so that's one thing that we can block with at least. Don't think we are longed for this game. But if we can afford 9 mana next turn, we might be able to play this. Let's see. Probably best to just let more creatures come down and then surprise our opponents with Blasphemous Edict. Can't afford the ability on this because we've got Summoning Sickness, so we'll have to pass it at that. Unfortunately, we didn't get many good hits with Tinybones there. But better he has 2 cards in hand than 7. There's Urza's Power Plant and Urza's Mine now. A farewell just exiles everything, so much for our game. I know some of you like to read through the chat, so I'll just flick through it here quickly. After, we see a Loyal Guardian, followed by a Mind Stone, 1 card in hand for each opponent, or for all of us in play actually. Cracks the Mind Stone in order to take himself up to 2 cards in hand. Urza's Cave. We could use that to go and grab a Cabal Coffers. Does the Cabal Coffers come in untapped? No, it comes in tapped, unfortunately, so now it's a choice of do we go Tinybones or not. I don't think it necessarily matters what order we do it in. I think we just pass here. Might be that we just go for a 5 mana Blasphemous Edict. See board wipe number 3 in like 8 turns. Pantlaza Sunfavoured back into play again. And amazingly didn't grab anything with Pantlaza. Revealed to us a Skyshroud Claim, Lurking Predators, Rampaging Baloths is unusual. This only triggers on dinosaurs, doesn't it? Yes. There was an Urza's Tower as well, so he's just dumped Urza's Tower on the bottom. Chishiro back into play again, so do we just have to be really annoying and go Blasphemous Edict on the next turn? We might have to. Pretty much all we can do. He does control his commander now, so Loyal Guardian is going to give some plus counters, and the 5 damage kind of has to come in towards us. Although we could try and have Pantlaza block to that, but I don't think he's going to block with his commander. So we'll put the Fear of God in our opponent by tapping down some mana. Root out our Cabal Coffers and take the damage. Okay, a Rankle could have each player sacrifice a creature, but it would take down the Rankle. Nothing to stop us doing that next turn, I don't think. Unfortunately, we're just a mana shy of casting it after the Blasphemous Edict. And we can't cast our commander either. Just apologise to my opponents in the chat for casting another board wipe. So hopefully we don't see scoops here. It's not like we're going to do anything, but we just need to buy ourselves time. Pretty much the only thing we can do is play our commander and aim for the Apex Altasaur, which, ironically, would probably be another board wipe. So it goes through another turn cycle. Our opponents are getting into more and more cards though, so they can easily wriggle out from underneath all this annoyance. Skyshroud Claim for Pantlaza. So I think, I can't remember now, but I think Skashar Claim was revealed with the Pantlaza and he put that into hand previously. Then an Unnatural Growth, no haste at the moment at least, but that's going to be a worrying one. We can at least afford our Commander and Rankle next turn, so with no cards in hand we might be able to go for the discard thing and try and get some stuff out of our opponent's hand that's decent. The fewer cards they have in hand, the more likely they're holding on to decent stuff. Cankerbloom can get rid of, an enchantment or an artifact. If that's the third time he's had his commander blown up, then it'll cost 6 extra, so this will be a 10 mana commander now. So he was just one shy of casting it there, I think. 2 cards in both of our opponent's hands. Arcane Signet we could tempt our opponent with. I don't necessarily mind discarding that, although it would be nice to get the additional mana. And we can play a land from Pantlaza here. The problem is if Pantlaza scoops, he takes his lands with him, but we don't have a land to make anyway. Maybe can swing in with Rankle, or we could just play a land. Let's go Bonder's Enclave, and then we can go for the Arcane Signet anyway and swing in with Rankle. And then if they want to blow it up with the Cankerbloom, then it's not going on a more threatening target at least. The Gruul player seems to be holding up priority for us, so we'll see if he can shoot Rankle out of the air. If he's going to make use of Cankerbloom, at the moment you would think it would go on to the Unnatural Growth, but maybe he wants to gang up on us. So I'll turn into Chishiro, and then Rankle goes on the stack. I think it has to be draw a card and discard. Do we discard first and then draw it? I think so. I think we get to keep the card that we draw with Rankle. Whatever, we'll soon find out. Haven't played Rankle in quite a long time. I think you do it in the order that the abilities are listed on the card. Deciding to, be reactionary and blow up our Arcane Signet on the way out. Although we weren't going to make him sacrifice there. Maybe he misread the abilities on Rankle. We haven't forced anyone to sacrifice anything here. So we see here a Blasphemous Act. So we've got access to another board wipe. It's one of those games, and a Naturalize as well. So we could end up going after the Unnatural Growth, thankfully. As long as we can keep our commander in play. And we did get to draw and keep the Sangromancer, which is our means of gaining life. You can gain a shocking amount of life from this. So I've got access to the Blasphemous Act and the Apex Altasaur. And those lands that Pantlaza got rid of could end up being useful for us, because it looks as though he's willing to stick it out. Alright, Geshath Sun's Avatar is about to hit us for a hell of a lot of damage. In fact, it's going to be 14 damage because this managed to survive. And that means that we might have to go for the board wipe next turn, annoyingly. Depends how many dinosaurs he gets from this, I suppose. So we have been having our opponents discard, but they've just managed to keep hold of 1 or 2 cards that just so happen to have been really good. So that 14 damage comes in towards us. We'll be left at 4. And there's every chance that the Gruul player can get some haste, but he might just tap out into his commander. So you have to assume that the dinosaur player is going to get lots and lots of dinosaurs in here. But the more dinosaurs that come in, the more we can gain from Sangromancer, because hopefully Blasphemous Act will have to be wary of not passing through to the second main, because it'll buff all their toughness as well, which is the type of thing I'm probably going to forget. But we can hopefully get down Sangromancer, wipe the board, and gain a bunch of life. Anyway, what have we seen? Akroma's Memorial, I'm glad to know, is in the deck. Not that I think I can play around that much. Chimil, Rampant Growth, Wayward Swordtooth has hit play. Vorinclex is not a dinosaur. Got some lands, Mass Hysteria, so they do have means of mass haste. Seen a couple of those here. Cloudshift, they have a bit of blink for their commander. Zakama, Tyrannix Rex have both hit play. A land, Farseek, and Worn Power Stone. So playing around haste is definitely something to consider here. What is the green ability on this? Destroy an artifact or enchantment, and they do have... oh, it's only a couple of green held up, thankfully. Cross and Grip, going on to that, gets removal out of our opponent's hand, that's good. He played a Temple of the False God. And then it's round to our turn. And we draw into a swamp. I don't mind seeing a swamp, because we've got more mana this turn with that. With the Cabal Coffers, otherwise I would have played my opponents, like I said. So let's see. We've got Cabal Coffers mana held up, and we don't have to worry about passing through to the second main with Unnatural Growth. So let's get down Sangromancer here, and we'll try and make a more informed decision of what we do this turn. They do have a Reacher here, a 9/9, so Rankle will have to turn into the right. 1 card left in the Naya player's hand, and if this game is anything to go by, it's probably something really good. We'll reduce both of our opponents down to 0 cards in hand. I'll leave Tinybones back just in case. Like I said, we do have to be playing around haste here. So we hit put Rankle on the stack. Each player discards a card. We don't have anything in hand. None of us will have anything in hand after this. So we see there a Carnage Tyrant could be worth grabbing. And we see a Game Trail here. This is where we wish that we had the Waste Not still available to us. It's going to be a shame to lose out on this Sangromancer, but we're just going to go down to Dinosaurs next turn, and we really don't want to give our opponent the triggered abilities with Zakama when he's got no cards in hand. So during the second main we will tap down for 6 mana. We've got 7 available, and unfortunately has to be the Blasphemous Act. The dinosaur player probably ends up getting us with some kind of haste eventually anyway, but Blasphemous Act only costing us 2 mana here. So we get some more triggers. That is 3 life times 4 is 12 more life. Return our commander back to the command zone, and then without our commander in play we can't make use of the counters, the exile things with counters on them. Not that we could have afforded anything anyway. We're always just a turn behind with mana, unfortunately, this game. So, pass through again. I'm fully expecting the dinosaur player to outrace us. Pantlaza back into play again. Can always rely on that as long as you can keep your mana held up. And this can get you into things for free. Keeps leaving up double green. I don't know. I mean, he's got no cards in hand, so I can't see that that's relevant. Teleportation Circle is a really good one. He's made a couple of good hits off that Pantlaza. I built this strictly with Dinosaur Tribal and then lent more into the Flicker side of it, and Flicker is the way to go with this. Just getting free spells is hardly ever going to be a bad thing. Okay, did he not play that? I mean, I know that we've got access to the Naturalize for it, but we're not going to be playing that until next turn if we do play it at all, and you have to force us. Pantlaza could get another permanent into play with the Teleportation Circle. Yeah, I'm not sure why he didn't go for that. Just drew into a Myriad Landscape apparently, but we have to assume that he can afford his commander here. Necrogen Mists is at the beginning of each player's upkeep. They have to discard a card. There's 1 card in hand over here. I mean, we just have to aim for our commander again, don't we? Not going to be making a swamp this turn, so I don't mind tapping into the coffers right now, because we'll steal a land from over here. And I think we're probably best getting in the Carnage Tyrant, just because it's a decent blocker. So let's steal the Blast Zone, and then the Carnage Tyrant. Nice to see players actually play it out with Tinybones. As soon as you start making players discard their hand and playing their spells, they tend to get really upset and scoop on you, so I'm glad to see our opponents actually deciding to carry on with this one, even if we did get an early scoop. Hard casts the Teleportation Circle. I'm sure he could have got that in for free. Yeah, you can just cast anything without paying the mana cost. It doesn't have to be a creature or anything. Anyway, a Wild Growth he drew into for the turn goes on to the Command Tower. I can't remember if he's shuffled or not now, so I don't know if we need to... Oh, he did shuffle with the Skyshroud Claim, so some of the cards that were on the bottom he could now draw into again. Haven't done a good job keeping track of when that was, though. Anyway, we're holding back the Pantlaza with the Carnage Tyrant over here. Doubt he wants to swing it into the 4-4 either. These two might still want a 2 versus 1 against Tinybones. So the Teleportation Circle gonna flicker the Pantlaza and get him into another free spell. And discovers an Ephemerate, so flickers it again. Another spin of the roulette wheel. With the Teleportation Circle, actually, he showed us Thriving Heath, Plains, Regisaur Alpha and Galter, none of which he could have cast, because it's only 4 toughness, so hard cast it must have been an Ephemerate, and this time gets himself a Trouble in Pairs, which is an excellent way to refill your hand. So we will see Ephemerate during the next upkeep, I think it is, with Rebound. Yeah, it's during the upkeep, so definitely looking to kill off the Pantlaza again. I think we need to make use of Naturalize onto Trouble in Pairs. As good as the Teleportation Circle is, the fewer cards he has in hand, the better. He's a bit less likely to draw cards into this when players have fewer cards in hand, though. And fewer cards on the board. Myriad Landscape for ramp. And then Simian Sling is +1/+1, and when the equipped creature becomes blocked, it's 1 damage to the player, not the creature. Now, does this have Menace or anything? No, it doesn't. The tokens it generates have Menace though. So I might see Chishiro swing in at the dinosaur player. Decides to not swing in at all, so we'll get a plus counter. Now let's see what we can do here, if anything. Ancient Tomb, I don't mind as much now, thanks to gaining a bunch of life. It's noteworthy that if we play Necrogen Mists, then we will have to discard it during our upkeep. I think we definitely want to, before we do anything, make use of this Naturalize. And we'll use our opponent's lands just in case he scoops. This is the type of thing you have to play around. But this is why it's relevant that your opponents play it out, especially with something like Tinybones, because the more they play it out, the more time you have access to their cards. Now we've got the Apex Altasaur. We could play this turn. Let's drop the Ancient Tomb, see how much mana we've got, because I can't be bothered working it out. That's 12 mana. That would have been easy to work out, actually. So I think the Altasaur's 10. Are we just 1 mana shy again? I know it's 9 mana. We've got exactly enough this time, as it happens. We can take out both commanders. So let's do that. And this does mean that if Pantlaza draws into a really good spell next turn, he has to choose between that and playing his commander again. Not even sure how much this is going to cost him now. Yeah, it's unfortunate that this got that plus counter, because we could have kept the Apex Altasaur in play otherwise. But I think we're doing alright considering this very weird game that we're playing. One thing we could have done was crash this in to the left and try to make him block with his commander, but I don't think he would have done that anyway. So Apex Altasaur is dealt damage, and the Necrogen Mists actually isn't going to do anything whilst our opponents don't have anything in hand, but it means they can't necessarily hold on to anything either. So we'll kill off the Altasaur. It's noteworthy we do have Rise of the Dark Realms in the list because of our opponents discarding things and killing things off all the time. But we're not necessarily going to draw into that, so both the commanders go down, the Altasaur goes down as well, and then I'll just show my hand, join my opponents in having no cards in hand. Then probably shouldn't swing in with this, but I think it's better to actually progress the game a little bit as best we can. Attacking here could actually, it could really hurt us. It's just like I'm arbitrarily drawing out the game, but after the farewell we were really slowed down, and obviously there's been cartload of board wipes this game. Yeah, one of these things could be equipped with something big. There could be something scary and hasty come down here, although they're not going to draw into something big and scary and haste, are they? Most likely. Yeah, let's just progress the game a little bit. We'll risk it. So we're at least encouraging our opponents now to not hold on to the cards in their hand. That alone might be enough to keep our opponent off Pantlaza. And yeah, plays Lurking Predators so we don't get hold of it. That is whenever an opponent casts any spell. So they could get into a decent sum of dinosaurs with that. I'm still expecting Pantlaza to win this one. All we've got access to now with our commander is a couple of tap lands. And now Pantlaza doesn't have any blockers, so when we hit him for 7 last turn, that was obviously a decent chunk of damage. It could be 14 over the couple of turns that we've been hitting him, which means it was the right decision to go in over there, but we'll see if he gets a creature off the Predators. This Menace creature could make all the difference as well, depending on what our opponent draws into. So maybe this Blast Zone is going to have to get rid of that token. Oh, it enters with a charge counter, so you can't take out tokens with it, unfortunately. Alright, that's a top deck. Only has 3 power, unfortunately, but it's better than drawing nothing. A Rishkar's Expertise is going to draw 3 and likely get a free spell. Revealed on the top is Temple of the False God. Can they put it on the bottom? Yeah, they likely put that on the bottom, I would think. But the more cards he draws, the more he can discard. That is Return to Nature, going on to our Necrogen Mists. So triggers Lurking Predators again, puts another land on the bottom, I dare say. And the 3/3 crashes in towards us. We cannot block it thanks to Menace. I'm thinking if there's nothing that we're doing next turn, it might be worth Blast Zone having 4 counters, or 3 counters, 4 in total, put onto it, ready for getting rid of Pantlaza and Teleportation Circle. Right, we draw into Turak, so we can have a target player discard 2 cards at random. There's only 1 card in hand over here. We can draw with this as well. Blast Zone, it would be nice to put additional counters on, maybe 4 in total to get rid of the circle. Yeah, we've only got tap lands to make now. Let's see about drawing a card with the Enclave. I'll just take some Ancient Tomb Life. Bit risky, but not sure what I'm doing really. Depends on what we draw into here. Alright, there's a swamp, so we can just play that for the turn instead. Although probably best to grab our opponent's tap land so that we don't have to play them later. Let's go for the Turak kicked. See if there's anything decent. Steal away from the Gruul player. Lurking Predators could put something into play. Maybe should have swung in with this. There's a team of Sabertooth, so that's free. And can make itself indestructible. But they don't have another creature at the moment, so that adds credence to the idea of us putting 4 counters on this in total. Could blow up a couple of things with that. Obviously point Turak at the Gruul player. And that is a Swiftfoot Boot, so I don't mind stealing. Plus counter goes on Turak. At the moment we can only afford to put 2 stash counters on the Blast Zone. So I don't think we're anywhere close to getting rid of Teleportation Circle anyway. We could put 3 on this turn if we play the untapped land, which might actually be worth doing. When our opponents have no cards in hand, do we really need Swiftfoot Boots that desperately? Hopefully this could block the team of Sabertooth quite well. Yeah, let's hold up Blast Zone mana. And we'll just put 3 counters on that right now. So we've still got a couple of tap lands for our opponents, but we can destroy all the 4 CMC permanents, of which we have none at the moment. Let's see. I'll swing in with this Tyrant to the left. I'm just constantly risking haste taking us out, but like I said, I think we've dragged the game out long enough. I said to my opponents in the chat before, it all depends on what your opponents discard to you with the Tinybones. If they don't discard anything all that incredible, or they deal with the things that you end up casting, then you just end up with a bit of a stalemate game like this one. Is it destruction with this? Yeah, it's destroy each permanent, so we have to be wary that this can gain indestructible if they want to bounce their commander back with it or something. Alright, they decide to block, surprisingly. That's fine with me. That's one less thing to deal with. I think I might have left that alone, personally, because this constantly bouncing your commander back and replaying it is potentially a way out of a stalemate, but I'm fine with getting rid of the Sabertooth. Just top decks into a Nature's Law. So I'm still not sure how much Pantlaza... Oh, there we go. Cast from the command zone 3 previous times is 6 on the tax. So that will cost 11. So he could have afforded to recast his commander there. I'm not sure why he didn't. He could have got 2 free spells thanks to the Teleportation Circle. 4 on this can obviously get rid of the commander as well. So if he's recasting Chishiro here, you kind of can't blame him for conceding if this gets blown up again. He does play it again, triggers Lurking Predators, shows a 3 visits, which I imagine goes on the bottom. Nature's Law and 3 visits were stuck together. Has 2 mana floating, so he could reconfigure this onto the Chishiro if he wanted to, but instead cast something from hand, can sacrifice it to proliferate, and reveals Utopia Sprawl, plenty of mana in this Naya deck. And then if he swings in with the Menace, I might just double block here, because I don't imagine we're doing much. And we'll be able to recast Tinybones next turn. Although protection from white on this might be of some relevance, because we could chump Pantlaza with it, maybe some other dinosaurs. Plus counter goes on to the Spirit token, making it even more of a threat. We draw a Withering Torment, so that could destroy the Lurking Predators, which I think I might have to do. Let's tap down Cabal Coffers. I'll leave the Ancient Tomb alone if the game's going to go on for a lot longer. Bonder's Enclave from our opponent, again relevant that he hasn't scooped because we've got access to this. We draw into a swamp, so have to see if we want to get down the tap land or not. Withering Torment onto the Lurking Predators, see if he gets a creature on the way out. Shows us a Jungle Shrine, so at least clearing a load of mana off the top. Lurking Predators did do something, even if it wasn't necessarily the desired result. Personally only run that enchantment when I'm making some kind of crazy list with like 40 odd creatures in the list, then you've got near enough half a chance to get free creatures in with that. Alright, so I think in that case this is 3 to activate. We'll get in a tap land, Thriving Bluff finally, say black, and then once again, simply because the game isn't really going anywhere, I'm just going to continue to swing in. It's not the right decision if you care that much about winning, but I'll just continue to swing that into the left, and if Chishiro ends up dealing a bunch of damage to us, then so be it. We've at least got the Blast Zone held up. We've got Tinybones' ability held up as well. But with our opponents having no cards in hand, they kind of need to try and hold on to a card in order for the ability on that to be relevant, which I wouldn't have thought they'd bother trying to do, because if you think that we're just going to activate this anyway, then why would you? Gets another land down, so our opponent did have a lot of mana on top of the library, draws into it again, and you just have to assume that this is the commander. So might be forced to crack the blast zone. See what he gets into off the discover first, because it might be a 4-drop that we can wrap up in the zone. A patchwork banner going to give buffs to dinosaurs, so even more mana. So I'll just crack blast zone now, before the teleportation circle resolves. And that gets rid of the circle, it gets rid of the commander yet again. And we've still got mana held up for Tinybones if our opponent just so happens to hold on to something. This spirit token with menace could make all the difference, especially when he's got proliferate. And yeah, just decides to scoop there. I thought that might be the thing that did it. It has been a tortuous game. Hasn't exactly been a lot of fun to play either. I think it was going well during like the mid game after Najeela decided to quit, but you get to this kind of stalemate where no one's got any cards in hand and none of us are drawing particularly well. Yeah, it's a shame it's turned out like that, but we just have to play to our outs, unfortunately. And hopefully you all enjoy the gameplay videos after they've been edited. It always feels different when you're actually playing it and sat here for 2.5, 3 hours. But yeah, my opponent scoops as well. What were we drawing into? Just another swamp. We still had the Bonder's Enclave, so could have finally got going with Aklazots. That would have been flying and lifelink, and maybe could have dealt with our opponent along with the dinosaur. So I think, in the end, after that Gruul player's scoop, we would have actually ended up winning that one. But I think Chishiro would have been the one to get through to us there with the token blocker. I would have at least tried to swing in with that and see what we do, because I think I actually would have started making blocks there, and that might have changed the outcome of the game. Fortunately, I managed to bore my opponents to death in the meantime, so not in any particular rush to run Tinybones again, but it was one of the more successful decks from the previous set, so hopefully you all got some enjoyment from this video, and big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well. Never want to forget the patrons. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.